Welcome. This is the Drupal usability meeting for June 27th, 2025. I'm Benji Fisher, moderating and sharing my screen, and also present is Ralph Kohler. So we decided to look today at issue 3111630. Media library upload form should use source field label and description. Now I've prepared a copy of Drupal with the merge request applied. You can tell this is my site because I used the Umami demo profile, and you can see the orange U for Umami in the browser tab. And meanwhile, Ralph has a site um, using just the standard install profile.
Yes.
Um, so that has the standard Drupal in the browser tab, and I think we can log into either one of them with admin. Um, and so we can compare what it looks like with and without the merge request applied. So I'm wondering why this is taking so long.
Could you reload simply?
Let's go back and look at the issue.
Yeah.
So the motivation is that in the media library, the form allowing to create new media by uploading a file should use the source field label and description. And there are some screenshots, so that's good. So before applying merge request, we should see this in Ralph's site that it just says add file over the file field. And with the merge request applied, we should see this, which says video file if you're adding a video media, as you can see in uh, the left horizontal tab. So this is still loading for me. Very odd. Let me try again. Log in. Oh, I'm already on the login page. Okay, so admin, and I suppose I could, and maybe we should test both. We could go to a node and upload a file from there, or we could go to, say, um,
In the
content.
media, you could go also on the content and media, and in the media library, they are also able to add an
That's right.
entity.
And I think I'll start with that. Let me get
Yeah.
my toolbar vertical as usual. So content, media, add media, and this is specifically for, well, I guess it depends on which type of media I'm adding. If I add video, it still says add new files. So I guess there's no change there. Um, and once again, your site is being very slow for me.
Or I see the requests in the ngrux output. So things are sent through. That's odd. Or maybe just focus on your site install and I just go to the same page and do the same steps and give a feedback what the output from on my end is.
Okay, so
You've been on, oops, 1 second.
I went to
Media library,
content
content, okay.
and then media add. and it always has add new file. And I think that's consistent with the comments on the issue that in, here we have add document. This details element is labeled document, and then it says add new file. So perhaps that's enough context. And they decided they didn't need to make the change there, although we're free to have our own opinions. Um, so let me say add um, a new what? Probably an article. Lets me upload a media. So I guess this specifically lets me add an image media, and there in the modal titles add or select media. Um, it says image, and
It, on my end, it says just add file.
okay, so that's the change added in this issue. So so if you select an existing media, it's going to be restricted to images. Maybe that's all that I have on the standard Umami install. Um, but if I were to browse, I would want some indication that I should be choosing from my images rather than from my videos. In fact, what happens if I try to upload it? Ah, okay, I'll get an error message since it has an MP4 extension instead of a JPEG extension or something. Um, but still, it would be nice to have some indication before that point that the file I'm uploading should be an image. Um, I guess it says that below here, the allowed types. Um, but
Uh,
I do think that having image rather than file is an improvement, although maybe it should be add image or upload image.
maybe just one addition. That is how the Umami is set up. You have specifically only adding a image file, but if on the media type you set more than an image, then for example document, then you get vertical tabs in the sidebar where you're able to basically distinguish between. I've basically created a content type, adding a media field, and in that media field I've activated audio, document, image, remote video, and video, and that way I've seen all those. That is a different scenario than from a microcopy perspective, from my perspective. Yeah, if you scroll down and add all the other media types there, then also the dialog looks similar to the issue summary.
So let me reload this page, which may or may not have been necessary, and click add media. So yes, now I have the vertical tabs. Um, why is this highlighted? Maybe I had a straight click there. Yeah. Okay. So audio file, document, image. So presumably this is the same with or without the merge request
Yes, add remote video via URL.
and video file. So for video and audio, we have the word file, video file, audio file. For document and image, we don't have the word file. Is this a case where consistency is desired or too much consistency is too much boilerplate and confusing?
I'm not sure.
I don't feel strongly.
Me neither. So I don't have an issue with it that they left it out there. But I would also see if someone would make an argument for it. Either way, no strong opinion on my end.
Um,
But is the label the only thing that changed?
I believe so.
But because they should use source field label and description. The description part puzzles me a bit.
Um, so let's see, manage fields. So where would that be? That would be under media types, right?
Yeah,
Um, audio. So the
no
description, a
puzzle.
locally hosted audio file. So the description is not empty. Um,
Could you go to the tab, the audio tab in the other tab, please? And to the audio?
where did my cursor go? There it is.
I don't see the description then. I only see the label.
So let's see. Let's see whether there's any discussion of that. I'm just going to search in the page for description. User interface changes, file upload field label, and description are updated to use the media types field config. But that's not shown in the screenshots. It's possible that someone updated the screenshots and failed to update the related text. Um, update the title and description properties. Being able to set a custom field label and description in the media type configuration might be more useful. So this comment says, I definitely don't think this should go in contrib. Okay, so Joachim, or how is that pronounced? Joachim,
Joachim? Yeah.
um, believes it does go in core rather than a contrib module. Um, the media library is showing a form to add media of a particular type, blah, blah, blah. It's simply good UX to show the widget for that field properly with its configured label and description. I agree in principle. I'm wondering how it will actually look and behave in practice. I think that's what should set the direction. Does this change as proposed truly provide the best experience for end users? Um, and here he said what he'd like to do is present this at one of our meetings, but I don't think that ever happened. Um, and in this comment, Athena Proxima or Adams says they're hesitant about this. The problem with reusing the source field label and description is that they're not context sensitive. Well, they might make perfect intuitive sense to end users when displayed, say, on media at whatever. They might be nonsensical and confusing when seen in the context of the media library modal. So I think that's what we're looking at now, right? The media library modal.
No, we are looking at the ad. Oh. Oh.
So this is the modal from the media library, right?
Okay. Yeah, all right. You're right. Sorry.
Yeah, that's the media library modal. Um, so it's kind of funny that the suggestion here is that it, it might make sense in the first context we looked at, where the change wasn't made, but it might be weird in the context of the media library modal. Um, One thing we could do is make the media library facing label and description configurable, maybe adding a third-party setting. I'm not aware of any reason why such a thing couldn't or shouldn't be done in contrib. Adding it to core means giving the site builder even more things to think about when creating media types and increases the media system's maintenance burden. If the core UX is already reasonable, as determined by the UX team, that's an even stronger reason to put it in contrib. But anyway, let me go back to my original search, see if there's any discussion about why that was not added. I wish I wish the browser would let me search for a description when it's not preceded by label end,
A regex search for browsers might
right?
be helpful here.
Well, actually, um, no,
Hmm.
Firefox does not give me the option of using regular expression. We want the description of the source field and not the media type, so this is correct. So that was left on the merge request.
The
The
description
description,
we obtained this now.
similar to the above label case, can we directly use title, media type, get description here, blah, blah, blah.
We want the description of the source field, not the media. Uh, just for clarification for myself, what's the difference between the source field and the media type? Or what is person directly referring to with source field in that context?
So this would be the name and description of the media
Type.
type.
Yeah.
Ah, so maybe, and they're saying we want the description of the source field. So maybe I am looking at the wrong thing. Maybe I should go to content types, article, manage fields. The label is media image and the help text. Aha! Here's where it is. This is the description of the media image
Uh,
field. Save settings. And now,
could you do one additional thing, please?
yes.
And rename also the field, the label to something else of the source field, not only add the help text, but also something different than media image. Yeah,
like so.
exactly.
Okay, and now let's just try reopening the modal without reloading the page. No, let's try reloading the page.
Okay, now the title is media.
Oh, which field did I update? Media
The
image.
media image. If you, could you close down the dialog for a second? The media image test got updated. And yeah, underneath, under the add media field, you have this is the description of the media image field. So both are reflected on the node edit form. But not within the dialog, it looks like.
Right, we just get audio file.
And
And we have neither the description from the field nor the description from the media type.
yeah,
So let's say I think just for my convenience, I'm going to close these two tabs with the screenshots. Um, so there's still another dozen references to the word description. Change the title of the merge request. That's add description coverage. Name and description. And I guess all the rest are going to be inside this text area. So there's no discussion of that on the issue. So um, so we can say a few things. One, um, either implement the image or strike the word description from the issue title and the proposed resolution. Um, uh, but also um, under the proposed resolution, give more detail about what the intention is from the user's point of view. That if you add a description here to the so it wouldn't make sense to add it here because this would be the same regardless of whether you're adding audio or document or image. Um, those are all part of the same media reference field. So you wouldn't want to use this just label or description. I think you really do mean this, and I think that's the um,
is that a source field then?
well, maybe not. Let me save this just for since I've taken the trouble. So maybe audio manage fields. Maybe this is what it means.
Ah.
Audio file also test.
But does it have there's the alt text.
This is the description of the file field on the media type. Maybe I'll say on the audio.
Audio media type.
So maybe that's what it's doing.
That would be well hidden.
Ooh, look.
Okay, now we're talking.
Okay, so that appears and that appears. Whoops. Uh,
Mhm. Oh, okay. Okay, now it makes sense.
um, and the screenshots should also indicate the description. Okay, so we need to improve the issue description.
Yep.
But now that we know what this issue is doing, um, do we think it's a good idea? And if we're going to change it here, should we also change it um, directly in the media library? Oops.
Could you go to the could you
What happened? Thought I had opened.
yeah, could you go to the media library maybe for a second, please?
Yeah, I think that's what I was planning to do. This is what you want,
And
right?
add add a media there and audio. It's already audio test then. Oh, that's also interesting. In here you see audio file also test, and if you go one step back, it's just audio test, so it's a different source where the label is pulled from.
So this is just add and then the label um, of the media type.
Exactly, but then within it's the label of the source file, a source field.
It's the label of the media type, right?
Yeah, audio test is the label of the media type, but the label of that field setting underneath is the label of the source field. As you can see, you have audio test and audio also test, audio file
Yes.
also test. So that's a mixed messaging that way.
Yeah. So this is the media type, and this is the field on the media
Exactly.
type, right? Okay.
And I just mean that that is, for me personally, would be confusing if I would be the user, not the person setting up and building the site. That is mixed messaging in that way.
Um, so I'm not sure what you mean by mixed messaging, where we're adding a content entity, a media entity. Up here we have the type of the content entity, which normally would just be audio, but here I've added the word test. And then there are a bunch of fields. In fact, there's only one field, but there might be taxonomy or captions or other fields. And so we have the label of the field as usual. Um, and then the question is whether we want the standard text for a file field or something um, more specific. And we also get the description of the field as usual.
Yeah, but my point is you don't know what a site builder is thinking. And if the person is fully aware of the implications, and if someone and that this is a clear example with audio and then test and then audio file and also test that way. But if someone picks something completely different than for example, for the file field within and the media type, it might be confusing. That's just my point. I'm not sure.
Okay, well, these,
It is not necessarily a bug or it's just a potential head scratcher, put it that way, depending
uh,
on how well the labels are crafted then.
But that's up to the site builder,
Yep.
so they can.
I just wanted to raise the concern that it might have implications.
Okay.
And it could just simply s- snowball and complicate things that way with too many options to set and configure.
Okay, but these are existing options, and I think there's no change on this page from the default behavior.
It, I think it is because I'm not sure if it would be picking things up with the description and the label name, isn't it? Isn't that what the issue is about?
Um, I think the issue only changed the media library modal. It doesn't seem to have changed this. Well, go ahead. I still don't have access to your site. Um,
Oh,
but
mcrop
go
is
ahead and make
coming.
the same changes to the audio media type on your site and tell me whether you see something different.
Yep, I'm currently on the way. Audio test, save, test, some test text. Your test? Yeah, no change. Identical outcome. I mean, yep. Okay, but that's good to clarify that. So the sole changes in the dialog only.
And again, what, what you're seeing in this modal dialog is add file, I believe.
Exactly. And
And you're
no description.
right. Just the standard description of a file
Yeah.
field,
One file
which,
only, 100 mbit limit, and allowed types MP3, WAV, and RRC. AAC.
okay.
But the label in the vertical type has the parentheses test. So that
Oh,
follows the naming or renaming of the media type.
oh, that's interesting. Just reloaded the page.
Oh,
Okay.
now with the okay. Okay, so it's only about the dialog model, and there basically the label and the description is getting minded and added.
Right. Okay. So I think basically there are two things we have to balance. One is that there is some merit, some value in having consistency between this modal form and this add media item form. So consistency is a good thing, and and we're breaking that. We're changing add new file to audio file also test. Um, on the other hand, it's also very important to provide context. Um, and here, where it says add a new file, we have all the context that we are on an audio media item. We're not an image media item, and the field name audio file gives me the context so that I know that when I add a file, I should be adding an audio file and not an image or a video file. Um, Here, I don't have that context. Um, and I think the way to satisfy both would be instead of changing this text, it's hard to change that text without triggering the button. Instead of changing that text, we should add the label of the media item. Would that be a better
The,
solution, or does
the
that
the
just make
label
it?
of the media item, isn't that basically the label of the vertical tab? That is the label of the media item, isn't it?
I'm sorry, I meant to say the field.
Ah, okay. Uh,
So you'd have,
the source field label, basically.
yeah, so you'd have both the text audio file also test, and then the text add a new file. So it would be consistent. It would be more consistent between here and here. We'd be increasing consistency and we would be giving context. The only downside I see is that we're sort of adding more text in a modal, and it's less is more. So we're breaking that principle, but we're giving context and we're increasing consistency.
But honestly speaking, in particular in the context of media, context is vital. So otherwise it's confusing. So I agree. So you would say basically instead of audio file, also test, write add a new file and in parentheses then audio file also test.
No, the other way around. Let me see if I can do this with browser tools. Um, so here's the label. So add a file. So something like that. In fact,
Yeah, but you mean really underneath?
yes, to be consistent with here, where the
Ah,
field label is the title of the details element, and add new file is attached to the file upload widget.
but then I would really be in line and instead of add a file, add a new file.
Um, ah, oh my gosh. All right, let's do it this way. It's HTML. No, that didn't work. Right, that sort of worked. I want to go back to this label. Um, so I'm here, let me make it easier to see. So I'm going to say that if we're going to have the description, it should be at the level of the label. Um, so possibly below, but here I have it above the file widget. So the whole file widget from here down to here should not be changed. That should be the standard upload file widget. And then I'm suggesting that we add the label and the description. Um, Certainly the label should go at the top, and perhaps the description should go close to the label.
Yep. At the moment, the distance between all three is identical, but yeah, should be proximity-wise, the description should be closer to the audio to associate audio file, also test title to associate it with it. I agree.
Okay.
And yeah, that would basically make sense. It's basically a brief primer before a person then decides to add a new file for that current provided context. So, and honestly speaking, um, by moving the description for the uh, field source field up, you before that I rather skipped it and because the details beneath the add a new field widget I never read really or
Right.
skip, and that way it's more prominent and it makes sure that they basically people increase the odds that someone reads it. Let's put it that way.
Okay. So I think you and I agree that this is a better solution than the one currently in the issue.
In the current implementation, it's just confusing to my point of view. As
Okay.
you've seen how long we have taken to wrap our heads around it and what it actually does.
Well, part of that is just that no one bothered to write a careful issue description saying exactly,
How to
um,
reproduce and to
yes.
apply it. Yep, agreed. So basically, the two suggestions would be update the issue summary to clarify those points and yeah, go with your suggestion here.
Um, Now, in the spirit of less is more, you should generally not have any text here unless it's actually useful. Um,
Yep.
but the default, of course, is
But
the default is that this field is empty. So someone has to actually do something to to make text appear there.
the only worry I would have with your suggestion is if the default applies and there is no help text and you have two headings and nothing in between, then it might look odd.
So let me go back to my browser tools, and this shouldn't really be a label. It should be some sort of heading, um, maybe an H3, and then below it, this is a label.
It's the label, clearly.
This is an H3, and um, And that looks pretty similar, but in fact, maybe this should be an H2. What this I assume is now an H1. You worked on that, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's an H1. And is this an H2?
I don't know. I haven't looked at it. No, it's just a unordered list.
Okay. So
Or
and that, and that
could you expand the link element? It's just a span. Okay.
okay, so in that case, semantically, this should be an H2, right?
Yep.
Let's see what it looks like visually.
Might be the case that there is no real styling for headings within the dialog modal here.
Yeah, that seems to be the case. But at least the semantics are right.
Yeah. But from a semantic standpoint, definitely in H2, then yep. Or strictly speaking, you would have, I'm not sure, is it possible to have the media dialog also in a dialog, not a dialog modal? Or
You
is
could,
it always in a dialog modal?
oh, let's see what happens if I right click on this button. Oh, close, go away.
No,
Hmm.
because the reason I ask is for dialogues, not dialog modals, the title is an H2 then, and then it would have to be an H3 in those cases. But I suppose the dialog modal is always a modal. The media dialog modal is always a modal, and therefore an H2 would be the right pick.
Yeah, it seems to be. Let's see. So there's a hidden input, another hidden input. JS media, library open button, blah, blah, blah. Data selector, form validate, value add media. Um, Drupal Ajax. So Drupal Ajax could be a dialogue or a modal dialogue, right?
Yeah.
Um, it's not clear to me whether where this specifies that it should be a modal. Maybe it's not in the markup.
Um,
Um,
I guess it's in JavaScript, if I'm not completely.
okay, we have 5 minutes left. I think we've come to a conclusion. Since there are only two of us, I don't want to be too prescriptive. So I'll call it um, like a recommendation, but not necessarily a final decision.
Yeah.
Um, but uh, but but I think the two of us agree that my suggestion will be an improvement. Um, and I'll set it back to needs work.
And needs
Um,
an issue summary update as well.
that too.
Yeah, but yeah, definitely agree. And that reminds me also, for next week, I'll try to finish it, or revive it. There is also in that list the design an UI to allow various kinds of alterations to reference media entities in a modal. That issue that is basically containing and mentioning also the allow media items to be edited in modal when using a field widget, which is basically about overriding media fields. And that whole set of problems, I've summarized all that a few months ago and was waiting for feedback from the media maintainers. But that we could revisit also because that is a similar set of it belongs to that set of problems basically. The whole media system and that that point about context, I guess, needs discussion.
Okay. Um, Next week I'll be traveling. I think I'll be able to join the meeting from the hotel Wi-Fi, but we'll see what happens.
Fingers crossed.
Yes.
Okay, doke. Then safe travels,
Thank you.
and yeah, we'll read in Slack, I guess.
Yep.
Okay, doke.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.